Alright guys, I need you to do something for me. I need you to think of the heaviest music you can think of, like the darkest and the eeriest, I guess, metal you can think of. What bands come to mind? Now, thinking of that, I can almost guarantee that no band from the 60s or 70s came into your head. Well, like most of you, I would assume, I don't really like heavy metal. Heavy metal's not normally something I listen to. Probably not something many people would listen to. But the purpose of this essay is to tell you, or I guess persuade you into thinking that the band Black Sabbath from the 60s is a metal band. Many people don't agree with this, but I think it's something that needs to be, I guess, settled. Now, the main argument is that they were the fathers of heavy metal. They brought all this influence into the world that had not been seen before them. So that kicks off my first point. First point being that they were the first in this music. They were the first to talk about the dark arts and just dark themes, you know, the doom and gloom of their shows to the Satanism of their music, to the dark, twisted themes. And according to the Rolling Stones magazine, that they did this a lot. And you look at them and other bands like Led Zeppelin, these guys did a lot of this stuff, and a lot of bands draw influence from that to this day. And you take any heavy metal band that draws any sort of satanic or occult theme, Sabbath did the same thing. This is why Black Sabbath is considered the fathers of hardcore rock and roll and heavy metal, because of the dark and the occult. And that's a huge reason that they need to be a metal band, because they were the first to do this, and still in their recent shows they did that. And the second point being that a lot of the bands today, a lot of the heavy metal bands, use a lot of the same, I guess, musical abilities that Sabbath had. Sabbath was great with using the tritone, which is a medieval piano tune that was banned by churches because it was believed to summon the devil. Black Sabbath used it quite a lot, and it worked. Secondly, they had a very bass guitar-led band. Normally, most rock and roll bands, everybody else plays around the drummer because he plays the basic tracking of the music. Well, Black Sabbath didn't do that. Their bassist played and the band followed along. And Ozzy Osbourne followed along with his dark lyrics sung with that tritone. And that can be seen in War Pigs or Electric Funeral or Iron Man for that instance. And they did this a lot. And in conclusion, I think they needed to be recognized. I think their music needed to be, it needs to be labeled as what it is. Not all music needs a label, but I think these guys deserve this label. Like I said, the purpose of this was to get you to think with me, to get you to believe with me that these guys are metal, to follow along with this belief, because I think it's true. But I know most of you probably don't listen to Class 2 heavy metal. You're normally not asked what's your favorite metal band. But maybe after this speech, when someone asks you that question, you can think, maybe Black Sabbath's my favorite metal band. Maybe that's who they are. And like I said, not all music needs to be labeled. In fact, these guys hated the label heavy metal. Hated it. Because they didn't want to be labeled as metal. They didn't want a label. But the music industry labeled them as metal back in the 60s, and I think that label needs to stick today. Thanks.